the biggest story in sports, and there's a lot going on in sports right now, but as soon as the NFL inserts itself to the conversation, boy, does it know how to take over the room. And I think that the biggest story that seems like everyone is talking about, Larry, is why the running back position in the NFL has been rendered so replaceable or too replaceable to bother paying handsomely. And this all was drawn out in conclusive fashion yesterday when Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Tony Pollard failed to reach long-term deals with the Raiders, Giants, and Cowboys, respectively. Christian McCaffrey came right on out, one of the best paid running backs in football, saying this is criminal. These are three of the best players in the entire league, regardless of position. So what I wanted to bring you in today for is to kind of like deconstruct where we are, how we got here, and what the path out of this situation, if there is a path out of this situation for running backs, actually looks like. And let me start with the simplest of questions. In any economic model, you start with the supply and demand. Larry, is that where really this entire conversation begins and ends? Supply and demand at the running back position. You've got a huge bucket of talent to scoop from, and the most elite level of running back talent isn't that much different than the upper middle class of running back talent. How did we get here?
Well, I think we got here because, the running back position has been devalued in the eyes of the general managers around the NFL. If you think about it, I mean, the only position group with a franchise tender value lower than running backs is kickers and punters. So I think really what it's about NFL teams don't want to be on the hook for running backs on that second deal or any kind of big money guaranteed or any kind of big commitment through a bonus to a running back because their shelf life is short. And there are a lot of running backs around the game, but they've been devalued more for the financial side of things than anything else. Teams are less willing to commit major money to aging running backs when they can replace them through the draft every year. We haven't seen a running back, Damon, signed to a multi-year deal worth $10 million or more since Nick Chubb signed with the Browns in 2021. So, and it's not like these players aren't good. The Raiders running back Jacobs is a tremendous player. Josh Jacobs is one of the best running backs in the game. He led the NFL with 1,600 plus rushing yards and over 2,000 yards from scrimmage last year. Saquon Barkley was fantastic. Ran for over 1,300 yards. Finished third in the NFL Comeback Player of the Year voting. Pollard was a Pro Bowler after taking over for Zeke in Dallas.
And that's the thing. Zeke became too expensive and too beat up, and Tony Pollard is, clearly the future, but the Cowboys are saying he's more of the present than he is the future. And I think that that's how all running backs sort of need to view their existence. You're going to get, hopefully, drafted. You will be salary slotted. If you're lucky, you get 1 year of being tagged, which is going to pay you handsomely, but you're probably not going to get tagged twice. And at that point, you hit the free agent market where it feels like the entire system is sort of working against you and everyone at your position at this time. And on one hand, Larry, it seems nuts because most people's football playing experience never goes beyond high school, and running backs are, pretty much the most important position on the team in most high school teams. Collegiately, if you're lucky enough to have played there, the running back is obviously a huge part of what goes on in college offenses as well. And all you got to do is play a game of Madden to find out how important a running back still is in professional football. So it's a little hard to understand why this important, critical, touching the ball as many times as you do position has been devalued by football. But it's also easy to understand from a capologist standpoint, which is measuring risk and reward at all times. And there probably is no riskier position to catastrophic injury than the position of running back. And I think that's got to do with the devaluation probably more than anything.
Well, they need to change the rules. I mean, you can't have a meaningful conversation about winning a football game without somebody referencing running the ball or stopping the run. So it absolutely is still, Kyle Shanahan's run pass fusion, his play action game, it's all predicated on a successful rushing attack. So the running backs are important, just nobody wants to invest in them. And since we're in a groupthink type period, there's really nowhere for the Saquon Barkleys, the Josh Jacobs, or the Tony Pollards to go. So it's not like they can just say, hey, Dallas or Vegas, trade me, because everybody feels the same way about running backs. I think Saquon Barkley probably had the most telling comment when he's like, throughout it is what it is. It is in the current rules. It is what it is. It needs to be a new look at the CBA, and the average salary for an NFL running back right now is $1.81 million. The average salary for an NFL kicker is $2.26 million. The average salary for a third string quarterback in the NFL, guys who basically never play and hold the clipboard and make zero impact on the game unless basically the first two guys are dead, is over $1 million. You're paying your average running back, who's basically taking more hits than anybody on your team, almost the same as a quarterback who never even suits up.
Sean King, Larry, former NFL quarterback, was on a Tampa team that won a Super Bowl, is now working at VSiN. He is a host over there. I've been on his show several times. He's a good guy. I like talking to him. He said the biggest issue regarding running back compensation is the NFL has started paying the position as much as paying the player. He says, look, I want everyone to make as much money as possible, but some of these priority position salaries don't match the actual player playing at that priority position. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so basically what he's saying is it's just they're just looking at it. It's kind of like surfing your kicker in fantasy. Like, hey, we'll just play it as it comes, and we're not going to spend any real money. We're not going to invest. We're going to keep bringing in new bodies, new faces. But when it gets time to pay them, we'll let them go somewhere else to get paid. And unfortunately, every team in the league, or most teams in the league, have taken the same stance. So you kind of already described it. You pay these guys on the rookie scale. If they're really, really good, you franchise them for a year. And then after that, you let them go somewhere else. And there's nowhere for them to go.
My man Larry Krueger joining us here on the Damon Bruce Show. The king of YouTube. You're approaching 20,000 subscribers. The king of YouTube, Larry Krueger, joining us here. So before we bring this conversation back to the San Francisco 49ers and the way that they're approaching it, which is a much different approach than a lot of teams are considering these days with just Christian McCaffrey being on the roster, where do you think all of this leads, Larry? We know that football very much is a copycat league. It's cyclical, and eventually someone zigs while everyone else is zagging, and the league starts to zig instead of zagging. Are we a handful of years away from the running back being better paid, more respected in the cap, or are we now living in a universe that it's going to be hard for running backs to escape from financially?
Well, I don't know how they band together. What, is every running back going to boycott the NFL? Everybody who's deemed a running back is going to boycott the NFL. It's already a pass-happy league. They probably find a way to take receivers and just put them in the backfield and throw it to them. So, I mean, is the style of the game going to change? Probably not. Are the running backs going to unite? Probably not. It's going to take some foresight on the people who are sitting at the bargaining table negotiating to basically say, hey, guys, look, you guys all need running backs. The game's predicated on running. And right now, the cap is, the franchise tag doesn't work. It's not working for the running back position. We need to either change the rules, increase the amount. They're going to have to do something in their internal mechanism and how the players and teams interact around the franchise tag and put greater value on the running back position, from without like the macro view of the league and not put it on every team. I think that's the only thing I see as possible, because I don't see the running backs getting together and actually boycotting. I don't see that happening. And I don't see teams just voluntarily paying players who wind up injured. We just saw the Falcons use a first-round pick on Bijan Robinson, but for the most part, first-round picks on running backs are deemed stupid. And when the Falcons took Bijan in the first round, I came out and said it on my show, which was, you know what? Unless I was absolutely right in the middle of my Super Bowl window and I had a full roster, complete roster, except for the running back, there's no way I would ever draft a running back in the first round. If I was in that situation, I might. Other than that, I would not.
So it's the cherry on top of the sundae. That's it. It's never the ice cream, the whipped cream, the hot fudge. It's just the cherry on top of the sundae, the way that a lot of, I think, teams are looking at it, the way you just described it, Larry, which brings us to the 49ers and the interesting choice that they made. And let's face it, they were able to make this choice due to the, one man's problem is another man's opportunity, right? Christian McCaffrey is not a 49er if the ever-present problem of who is the quarterback for the 49ers had been worked out, and they're paying a top-flight quarterback top-flight money, or even into mid-flight quarterback money. It's because they are at the first rung of the quarterback pay ladder that allowed them to add Christian McCaffrey. And you wouldn't have to tell a 49er fan how much Christian McCaffrey meant to this team. It was like two different football teams, two different offenses when Christian McCaffrey joined the team. He was the skeleton key that unlocked it all. Christian McCaffrey is one of those last big-time paid running backs out there, a 4-year, $64 million contract, which the Carolina Panthers obviously were more than happy to trade to the 49ers for all the draft compensation that they got. With teams hesitant to pay running backs, why did Kyle Shanahan, not just the coach, but the general manager, Larry, say, I'm willing to take that risk? Does it have to do with the fact that Christian McCaffrey is as much of a hybrid wide receiver running back as you're going to find in football, which allows him to carry a larger cap hit because he's more versatile?
Well, I mean, the Niners coveted this player, and they're probably kicking themselves that they took Solomon Thomas at the top of the draft instead of Christian McCaffrey a few years ago. And I just think that they felt like he was the right player at the right time. They're inside their Super Bowl window. You mentioned, they're paying Brock Purdy $840,000. And then the McCaffrey addition proved to be genius because the Niners were averaging about 20 a game, points that is, without McCaffrey. After McCaffrey came over, they averaged 29 points a game. So, he made a profound impact. And I think he's also the right guy at the right time as far as he can be utilized in a lot of different ways. And he is, in a lot of ways, in their mind, the final piece to the puzzle. I think also Javon Hargrave would not be here if the 49ers were paying a quarterback $20 million or $30 million or $40 million. Instead, the most expensive their room can get at quarterback is if they go with Lance and Darnold as 2 and 3 or 3 and 2. Then those two guys combined will make $14 million on the cap this year. So you for your entire quarterback room, you've got less than a $15 million cap hit. To put that in perspective, there are quarterbacks making 45. So, the 49ers are taking that $30 million and they're saying, we'll give some of that to McCaffrey. We'll give some of that to Javon Hargrave. And, that's why they're, why they so committed to, going with a young quarterback for that, because they felt like they had a really good roster. They wanted to retain those guys. And they also felt like they could add a couple key pieces. Now the question is, can they get it done? Can they win a Super Bowl inside their window before their quarterback becomes prohibitively expensive like quarterbacks do after their rookie contracts expire?
As you and I have discussed, Larry, the window is 2 years. It's this year and next year for the 49ers. Kyle has got to bag his first Lombardi trophy as head coach in the next 2 years, or he is back to the drawing board on a full new reconstructing of a roster and trying to win a Super Bowl in what would be the next window, because this window shuts 2 years from now, not based on talent, but due to economic structure of that quarterback room that you just talked about. Warren Sharp, who is a really smart guy, tweeted out, 5 of the last 6 teams that paid a running back all regretted it and moved on. Zeke got $90 million and was cut during the deal. Christian McCaffrey, $64 million, traded during the deal. Cook, $63 million, cut during the deal. Gurley, $58 million, cut during the deal. Bell, $53 million, cut during the deal. And the 6th is probably going to be Alvin Kamara, who has cap hits of $19 million this year and $29 million in 2025. So no, excuse me, that's 19 and 24 and 29 and 25. So he is probably going to find himself on the chopping block as well. Where does it end? Could this possibly end in any way with the league saying, look, we have it's common for guys up and down the roster when they are deemed Pro Bowl level elite to be cashing paychecks in that $20 million range. Does the NFL owe it to the players to make sure every position can reach that? I mean, we got guards getting paid $20 million in this league, Larry. It's happening. Like, so it's amazing that guards would be paid that and running backs wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's about a sense of fairness. I mean, I think what player on the field takes the most physical abuse? Running back. So why should the running back be and everybody who talks about winning football starts with, well, you got to run the ball. And everybody talks about being good on defense starts with, well, you got to stop the run. So if running the ball is the number one goal of an offense and stopping the run is a number one goal of a defense, and running backs take more physical abuse than any other player on the field, why are they so devalued? And the answer is they're devalued because you're being paid based on what partially based on what you've done, but partially based on what you're going to do. And the workload is so great on the running backs' bodies that they're being used and kicked to the curb. And teams like the best teams in football, they don't have a running back. They've got a stable of running backs. I mean, the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey. They have Elijah Mitchell, who's a starting caliber running back. They have Jordan Mason, starting caliber running back. They have Ty Davis Price. He eventually could become a starting caliber running back. And they brought in 2 undrafted rookie free agents who are both really, really solid in Kalen Laburn and Ronald Awatt. And they're covered with numbers. And if you look at the best teams in football, they're all in that same mix. They don't have a running back. They have a stable of running backs. And they're trying to spread it out a little bit. But ultimately this is not going to get solved until somebody stands up in the CBA negotiations and says, guys, the average running back career is X number of years, and the hits that they take are extraordinary. And they either have to be compensated heavily up front, or there has to be some change to the CBA because nobody wants to invest long-term in these players. They want to use them for what they're good for and then throw them aside and go get another one. It's almost like the running back today has become like a printer, like for a computer. Do you sit there and ever repair your printer? No. Do you have the same printer that you had 10 years ago? No. You have a cheap printer. It works really well. And then when it doesn't work, you get rid of it because it's not worth anything, and you go buy another printer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like television. When's the last time you brought a TV to a TV repair shop, right? You go get a new one because they're reasonably priced and they're everywhere.
4K TVs are $250.
I want to credit everyone who comes up with something clever. A total Twitter rando named Josh Dino. He doesn't cover the NFL. He's just a fan, but his comment was attached to some other stuff that I was reading. And, he said, how hard is it to win without a good running back? Like, I guess it could be hard, but it's still not worth investing heavily in the position and just go back through your recent Super Bowl champions for all the receipts and evidence that you need. 2022 Chiefs were led out of the backfield by a seventh-round rookie. The 2021 Rams totaled 43 rushing yards between four low-investment running backs. The 20 Bucks were led by a free agent running back. The 19 Chiefs were led by an undrafted running back. The 2018 Patriots, Sony Michel, the guy was basically terrible, but he played well enough to where he fit the Patriots. The 2017 Eagles, LeGarrette Blount on a free agent deal. The 16 Patriots, it was LeGarrette Blount on a free agent deal. The 15 Broncos were an undrafted CJ Anderson. Like, it's really nice to have a good running back, and maybe you need one to get you through the regular season, but you get to that Super Bowl, you just need one guy to have a decent day of running behind a well-paid offensive line, and that might be enough for you. So I wouldn't want to be an agent of a running back right now.
No.
And I certainly wouldn't want to be the father of a running back either, Larry. And that's where I kind of want to end this. Have we reached a point where every high school career has an element of, well, I might be a pro baked into every kid who could be dubbed an elite caliber prospect? Are we about to see the running back room occupied by the least talented athletes on a football team?
Well, because of the money aspects, but it's still the starring position. It's still the running back star is, the greatest athlete in high school plays running back.
Right.
And if not, I'll say this, mama, don't let your babies grow up to be running backs. When my kid played, I didn't like it when he played running back, because the running back is getting crushed.
You're exposed on every play, and on the plays where you say, well, you weren't handed the ball. You're asked to pick up blitzes, and those hits can be as brutal as any tackle that you take.
The running backs are concussed at the highest rate. I really believe that. The running backs, they have to be compensated. They have to be compensated more, since their duration of their careers are shorter. They have to be compensated greater initially. Or maybe it's one of those things where if you produce, there's bonuses for running backs that other positions don't get. Like, you get what you're paid, but if you go for, you get what you're negotiated out, but let's say you go for 1,500 yards, you're getting an extra $2 million. You go for 1,800 yards, you're getting an extra $3 million. Because there's got to be some mechanism within the sport that accounts for your body piling up mileage that is real and is going to limit your ability to make money in the future.
Other positions have made that argument conclusively. Like, the reason why, edge rushers are being paid through the nose, well, not only is it their job to get the quarterback, but they take an ungodly amount of physical abuse, and that has been baked into their salaries, where it's not been baked into a running back's salaries. And we'll end with this. Steve Weish, who does a great job for NFL Network, said, what's whack about running backs not getting paid? The physical abuse that they take as pass protectors is actually used against them come contract time. Running backs run, catch, and are asked to be told to help block dudes like Nick Bosa and Aaron Donald, and instead of being rewarded, they get treated as damaged goods.
I'll go even further than that. Name the last big-time old running back. They don't make it to 30 plus in the league. There aren't old.
For you. There's only one name that comes to mind. Jerome Bettis.
Okay.
Like that, but that's it.
That was years ago.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago. That was 2 generations and evolutionary steps in the league ago.
Yeah. What I would love to see is something that reflects monetarily the mileage on their bodies. Because that's I think I've read that NBA teams sometimes practice with these sensors, and they can tell, how much energy a guy's got left, or, how much energy he's expended. Well, the stats and the touches tell us what kind of workload a typical running back faces. And if you want there, you should not be able to use a guy's body and pay him very little and then kick him to the curb for some other young player that you're going to use as well. There's got to be a mechanism in the CBA negotiated that reflects the mileage that their bodies take, some equation with success. Obviously, it can't just be carries. It has to be success, yards per carry, whatever, touches. But there has to be something where if you are a 7th-round pick, Isaiah Pacheco, and you become the Chiefs starting running back, and they ride you all the way to the Super Bowl, that you get an additional salary based on your usage. If your usage, goes beyond a certain point, there has to be something that pays running backs in the present instead of just having them paid like based on the past and a projection into the future.
Right. When your salary is tied to, well, you'll make an awful lot of money in your next contract, but your position is designed to almost prevent you from making that next contract. There's something that's got to give in there for there to be harmony in the union, in locker rooms, players amongst themselves. Something here, it feels like there's a little bit of a boiling point going on that is bigger than just, these are fans talking about cap numbers that they really don't understand. This feels a little bit more like football psychology is rearing its head into this conversation. And I don't think anyone on any network, on any channel, on any station is going to have a more comprehensive discussion about it than what you and I just had. Larry,
one last thought on that. Deebo Samuel, Damon, I think is a great example. He's a receiver who got used as a running back. And I'm pretty sure that when he talked to the 49ers about the new deal, his agent expressed that they didn't want to see Deebo used too much between the tackles as a pure running back because it devalues his money-making ability as a player, whether he's a receiver or a running back. And we don't have any concrete sources on that, but the Niners have used him less between the tackles than they had prior to his extension.
Indeed. That's a great point. Larry, you're the man. Thank you so much for joining me here today on the Plus. It's always good to have you on. I know we need to tap into more home and homes.
Yeah,
I'm about to go on vacation. You just got back. And when we come back and really start gathering ourselves to get ready for football season in the month of August, we will have it all hammered out and get everyone on the schedule. And we'll be serving it up better than anyone else. Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Anytime, man. Good to see you.
There he is. Lawrence Krueger. Here on the Damon Bruce Show. Guy's outstanding at what he does.